Hello, today we are going to explore a mysterious murder case, one where from beginning to end, the police never found the victim's body yet. In the end, the court still convicted the killer and punished him according to the law. The story takes us back to June 2000, in a quiet alley of Da'an District, Taipei City, where the apartment of Ms. Zhang Jinghua was located. It was also the place where she ran her English tutoring classes. After completing her master's degree in the UK and returning to Taiwan, Ms. Zhang opened English classes at home. Her small-scale classroom was very popular among students. In addition to her stable teaching income, Ms. Zhang was also skilled in investing and financial management. She was truly a golden girl of the single life. By modern standards, she was the model of a successful woman living alone, owning an apartment in the expensive Da'an district of Taipei. Her life seemed quite comfortable. Since she lived alone, Ms. Zhang paid great attention to safety. She loved traveling abroad and was careful with every detail before each trip. She was very close to her family and always informed them whenever she went away so they could be at ease. But on June 14, 2000, after her unofficial boyfriend left her house in the morning by noon, no one could get in touch with her anymore. Her family went to her apartment and saw her shoes still on the rack, but no one answered no matter how long they rang the doorbell. By late night on June 15th, the family grew more and more anxious and called the fire department, who climbed in through a window. Still, Ms. Zhang was nowhere to be found, and her mobile phone was left behind. After receiving the report, the police arrived at the scene to investigate. First, they checked the front door lock. It was clear that the lock had not been tampered with, which meant there was no forced entry. This was the living room scene. Everything was neatly arranged, no signs of struggle, and no belongings disturbed. The police continued their inspection. In Ms. Zhang's bedroom, a few clothes were placed on the bed, but not much else seemed out of place. Looking closely, there were no signs of burglary or theft. However, what caught investigators' attention was the unusually clean living room floor. Strangely, the scene had been scrubbed far too spotless. Normally in any household, the floor wouldn't be polished to such a shine, but here it was unnaturally spotless. Of course, it could be explained as her personal habit, or perhaps she had a maid who cleaned regularly. But when asked, her family confirmed that Ms. Zhang never hired any help, making this all the more suspicious. As the investigators were about to enter the bathroom, they heard strange noises coming from the back balcony. Looking outside, they saw a husky dog. The moment the balcony door was open, the dog rushed inside, letting out unusual cries. But it was obvious that the dog wasn't being aggressive. Instead, it whimpered, as if crying. The police sensed something was wrong, and carefully searched every corner and object inside the bathroom. All personal hygiene items were present, yet 2 bath towels and a large bottle of shower gel were missing. Even stranger, there was an electric fan inside the bathroom. Normally, people don't place electric fans in bathrooms. Instead, specialized ventilation devices are used, since putting such an appliance in a damp environment is risky and could cause electrocution. Plus, using a fan while bathing could easily cause chills. The more the police thought, the stranger it seemed. Near the dark red bathtub wall, there appeared to be irregular stains. If it were just from bathing water, might splash on the walls, but not in that specific location since it was on the side of the wall. Sensing something ominous, the police decided to test the area with luminol. The results were shocking. The stains reacted as blood. One investigator wondered aloud, could she really have been preparing fish or poultry in the bathroom? Clearly, this was an alarming sign. To see more clearly, investigators shone different light sources from multiple angles around the bathroom. The bloodstains soon became visible across the bathtub surface. Looking inside the tub had been filled with blood which overflowed and dripped onto the floor. Blood droplets had pooled and streamed down onto the toilet base. Because the toilet bowl was dark red, a large blood stain was hard to spot with the naked eye. Over here at the sink, you can see traces of blood running downward. The water had been flushed, giving the illusion of cleanliness, but nothing in this world can ever be completely erased. Remnants still remained. The bathtub, toilet, and sink all contained blood, and on the bathroom floor were tiny drops as well. Just by looking with the naked eye, investigators could see blood everywhere. They applied chemicals to reveal hidden traces that could not be wiped away. On this green wall, there were large blood marks likely caused when a blood-soaked rag was used to wipe the surface. This indicated the crime scene had been cleaned. Investigators carefully marked each spot and documented it. Here is the diagram of blood distribution at the scene, 107 points in total. Later samples from Zhang's parents were collected, and forensic tests confirmed the blood belonged to the teacher. All signs indicated that something horrifying had happened inside this bathroom. On the floor, there was even an electric fan, an object that normally wouldn't be found there. Investigators suspected that the killer might have used the fan to dry the floor after cleaning up the scene. In addition, the victim's family reported that a bamboo curtain was missing. Could the killer have used that bamboo curtain to wrap the body? Still, all of these were only assumptions with no solid proof. Apart from the obvious traces of blood, the investigators didn't find any bone fragments, tissue, or human remains in the bathroom. The only thing they could be certain of was that the disappearance of Zhang was anything but simple. Why was that? If she had mysteriously gone missing, then the perpetrator was likely someone she knew. When police entered the house, everything appeared neat and tidy, as if it had been deliberately cleaned. So who among her acquaintances could it be? Could it have been her boyfriend? Zhang had been in a relationship with a man for a while. However, after investigation, police ruled him out. Miss Chuang likes dancing and socializing with many friends. She was educated, classy, stylish. Although she had a boyfriend since she wasn't married yet, many others still pursued her. Police called in every man and woman who had recently been in contact with Zhang for questioning. When they checked Zhang's call logs, they found that the last person she had contacted before disappearing was a man with the surname Li. Police reached out to him and asked him to come in. Although they had set appointments, he repeatedly failed to show up. One officer explained, in principle, Mr. Li was cooperative, but every time we scheduled a meeting, he would come up with some excuse. They had scheduled 2 meetings, both unsuccessful. He told police he would come the next day, but when that day came, he claimed he had overslept. By noon, police sensed something was wrong. Upon checking, they discovered he had flown to Hong Kong that very morning. His sudden escape raised serious suspicion. How could he have told police he overslept while he was already at the airport? It made no sense. His repeated absences only deepened suspicions. Still, investigators couldn't jump to conclusions, so they began looking into Zhang's assets and finances. Inside her master bedroom, one drawer had been opened. Inside were several bank books. Although not all were taken, police checked the balances and discovered that on the afternoon of the crime, someone had cashed a check in her name. The person who cashed it was a woman unknown to Zhang's family. However, the man who deposited the check into the bank was none other than Li, the very same man police had been unable to reach, and who had fled to Hong Kong. Further checks on Zhang's credit card and ATM transactions revealed that the unauthorized user was also Li. All clues pointed directly at him. It seemed he was the key figure in this case, but the problem was, he had escaped. What now? Especially since Zhang had vanished without a trace, her life or death still uncertain. Investigators learned that Li had previously run a business in mainland China that failed, and he had borrowed money from his sister and ex-wife. Meanwhile, Zhang was a wealthy woman. The stark difference in financial situations might have been a motive, but police couldn't rely on speculation alone. They dug deeper into Li's phone records and location data. What they found was disturbing. On the day Zhang disappeared, his movements were highly suspicious. At around 11 a.m., the critical time of the case, he was at Zhang's home, according to cell tower data. That was also the last time she communicated with anyone. After staying there for 7 to 8 hours, he finally left in the evening and moved toward Yonghua. Later, he returned to Zhang's house and then drove north toward the coast, passing through Jinshan and Tandai Bay. Around 1 a.m., he circled back to Yonghua. Why such a strange route? Police began to suspect a chilling possibility: disposal of evidence. And to do that, he would have needed a vehicle. They thought that with so much blood, he certainly wouldn't dare to use public transportation. But since he didn't own a car, he must have rented one. The police recalled that the last time he appeared was at the airport. Could he have parked a car nearby? Investigators then checked all the parking lots around Zhongzheng Airport to see if there was any car rented by Li Jiwei. Since he said he didn't have money to buy a car, it was possible that he had rented one. After renting the car, he could have driven to China and abandoned it. But no such car was found. So where did the car come from? This clue was still under investigation. Meanwhile, another team of police officers was tracing the mysterious woman who had withdrawn 60,000 new Taiwan dollars using Ms. Zhang's check. Later, they discovered that Li Jiwei had a younger sister. After comparing, they realized it was the same person. The police immediately sought her out. The sister explained that her brother had told her Ms. Zhang owed him money, and that he used the check to settle the debt. She had helped her brother withdraw the money. She also said that her brother used her car while in Taiwan. The police then requested to inspect the car. As soon as they opened it, they felt as if they had opened a box. The air inside was filled with the smell of blood. At first glance, the driver's seat cushion looked normal, but the strong odor of blood lingered. When the cushion was lifted, a blood stain was found underneath. The surface seemed clean, perhaps wiped, but the blood had seeped below. The rear seats had similar cushions, and when lifted, more bloodstains appeared. The trunk was packed with items. What immediately caught the investigators' attention was a large bloodstain on the black sunshade. Beneath it was a velvet mat, which had white marks. When lifted, they found blood that had soaked through the plywood underneath. This indicated a large amount of blood. The stains were in droplet form, seeping down slowly, not just from a contact surface. The deep penetration suggested that something had been lying there for a long time. The blood had slowly dripped through 3 layers. Perhaps a body had been placed there for quite a long time. But how long was quite long? The task force consulted foreign research on criminal psychology. They hypothesized that Ms. Zhang had been placed in the trunk, and the killer drove for 40 minutes to an hour to dispose of her. DNA test results confirmed that the blood belonged to Ms. Zhang. When estimating the seepage and Li Jiwei's movements that day, the timeline matched. Despite his efforts to cover it up, the duration aligned with 30 to 40 minutes, and his call logs placed him in Jinshan near the nuclear power plant. The distance from Taipei to Jinshan also fit the 30-40 minute travel time. All the clues matched the 107 blood traces in the bathroom, the 2 car seat cushions with blood, and the blood soaked through 3 layers in the trunk. Police began to consider the worst. Normally, no one would allow such large amounts of blood in a trunk, nor let blood splatter across a bathroom like that. At the scene, it was clear the killer had used a large amount of water to wash away traces. Thus, the police couldn't determine the original blood volume. This was the limitation of science in the case. The blood was excessive, and the splatter pattern was unusual. The investigators privately discussed and agreed that under such conditions, it was extremely unlikely for the victim to have survived. 90%, even 100% Ms. Zhang had been killed. What troubled the police even more was that suspect Li Jiwei was hiding in China. After 6 months, the police asked his sister to send him a message. "We are about to close the case, please come back." At that time, Li Jiwei might have thought enough time had passed. The police hadn't found Ms. Zhang, nor did they have direct evidence to charge him. Believing the matter had died down, he agreed to return to clarify. Once back in Taiwan, the police quickly approached him. Li Jiwei was cunning. For evidence such as the surveillance footage of him depositing Ms. Zhang's check or his sister withdrawing money from her account, he had ready explanations. He claimed Ms. Zhang wanted to invest and had entrusted him with the check and bank card. Yet he told his sister to throw away the card after withdrawing the money, which was strange. If Ms. Zhang had willingly given them, why not keep them carefully instead of discarding them? Moreover, he couldn't explain what the supposed investment was. The police found that Ms. Zhang had twice been deceived financially by her ex-boyfriends, so afterward she never wanted to mix money with any man again. The police then pressed on with sensitive questions. Why was there Ms. Zhang's blood in his sister's car? Why was there so much blood in the bathroom? Li Jiwei had no answer, only saying, "I don't know." The purpose of him doing so was to avoid being directly linked to the bloodstains in the car and at the crime scene. He testified that around 11 a.m. on the 14th, he called Zhang Chuizhen but could not reach her. Afterwards, he went to her house, but no one was there. He then said he borrowed his sister's car and went to visit a female friend in Shuiping. Because he could not find Zhang Chuizhen, he later testified that he went to Jinshan to look for an old army comrade. When the police went to question the female friend in Shuiping, she admitted she had met Li Zhengwei 3 times, but was not close to him, and she absolutely did not know about him coming that day. Meanwhile, the old comrade in Jinshan firmly stated, "I don't understand why he even called me, I never met him." Meanwhile, Li Zhengwei claimed he had visited his friends and stayed there for a long time. Every statement he gave was unreasonable. Cornered, he stubbornly kept changing his testimony. The police, like squeezing toothpaste, revealed his lies bit by bit. At first, he said he never entered the house, only stood outside discussing business with Zhang Chuizhen. But when the police pointed out they never saw her outside, he changed his story, claiming he went inside briefly. When police revealed there were footprints in the bathroom, he again changed his statement, saying he entered and sat inside talking with her. Police then compared Li Zhengwei's footprints with those collected at the scene. The result confirmed they were his. Moreover, the bathroom had been cleaned. If the footprints were old, they would have been wiped away, not preserved so clearly. Those prints were undeniable evidence. At this point, Li Zhengwei kept changing his testimony again and again. Each time police asked a question, he twisted his words into another version. Although all the evidence was circumstantial, the tribunal believed it formed a solid chain of proof pointing clearly to Li Zhengwei as the killer. This was a murder case without a body, without a weapon, and without a confession. Convicting him was extremely difficult. Although Li Zhengwei was prosecuted, never in Taiwan's criminal history had there been such a challenging case. The case went to trial, and in a rare move, the sentencing was postponed to continue searching for the killer. To be cautious, the court revisited the crime scene 4 times. At that time, Kai Shanhui, an investigator from the Dan Precinct Criminal Division, was ordered to collect evidence. He said that before going, they prepared, carefully checked the batteries, ensured everything worked properly. Carrying 2 video cameras, he and a colleague, one each, went to Zhang's house. Entering the living room to the left was her bedroom, inside it, the bathroom, and straight ahead the kitchen and dining room. After setting everything up, he clasped his hands and said, "Today we come here to perform a ritual. If you have something to say, please tell us." But when he tried to start filming, the camera would not work. No matter which button he pressed, nothing happened. Thinking the battery was dead, he replaced it, but still nothing worked. He hurriedly asked his colleague to buy new batteries. When turned on again, the camera still would not function. But when handed to his colleague outside, it worked normally. Bewildered, he tried again himself, but it still failed. Both cameras malfunctioned. Clearly, everything had been thoroughly checked beforehand and was fine. Why was this happening? They borrowed another camera from the precinct, but the same thing occurred. At that spot, no camera worked yet. Outside, everything was fine. They had never encountered anything so strange. At the scene, the police investigators and judge all witnessed the bizarre incident, and no one dared to say a word. Later, Kai Shanhui softly said, "If possible, please come to find me. We will help you find justice so you can rest in peace." That very night, he had a dream. He recounted that a woman about 155 meters tall held his hand and led him forward. He did not look back, just followed her. Though he could not see her face, he felt her deep sorrow. They walked toward the sea, crossed a rice field, and reached a village road. After a while, an old man blocked the way and said, "Don't go any further." Then he woke up. Looking back, he realized the woman's features were very similar to Zhang Chuizhen, petite, build, shoulder-length hair. He immediately told the dream to his captain. The captain said, "I believe." Then he immediately called the prosecutor and reported the incident. They believed that Zhang Jinghua had appeared in his dream. She was buried in a place with mountains, the sea, and a road in between. To verify the situation, Kai Shanhui and his colleagues drove to Jinshan. The coastal scenery there seemed somewhat similar to the dream, but not completely the same. They continued driving to search, and after a while they saw a local earth god temple. They stopped to pray. Kai Shanhui said, "The moment I saw it, I knew right away that was the old man who blocked me in the dream." At that moment, he truly felt a chill. The temple had been rebuilt. Originally, there were 3 statues, but now only one remained. Later, the police even sought out a feng shui master for advice and considered using scientific methods to shorten the search. They had a ground-penetrating radar expert, but because of the complex terrain, rocks, and high humidity, the radar could not function effectively. Therefore, they could not use ground-penetrating radar. They also considered using police dogs, but at that time the country had not yet trained dogs to search for corpses, so they contacted a well-known dog training center in Wuri, Taichung. However, the center said the site had no specific suspicious point, and if the body had been buried deep underground, it would be very difficult to find. Thus, the police had no choice but to dig area by area. Unfortunately, even after digging all over the mountainside, there was still no news. In the end, based on the abnormal blood patterns in the bathroom, the drip marks in the car, and Zhang's complete lack of social records for more than 2 years, the court gave a comprehensive ruling. She had no records of consumption, no travel, no withdrawals, no contact with anyone, no appearances in any images, and no entry/exit records. In other words, she had completely disappeared. Therefore, the court ultimately concluded she was dead. The police, prosecutors, and even judges involved in the case all experienced unexplainable phenomena. For example, the parked car's trunk suddenly opened by itself with no one around. The prosecutor in charge of the case kept receiving strange phone calls at midnight. No voice, only the sobbing of a young woman. Another strange event happened to Zi Beiwang, the local officer in charge of the case. That night, after sealing off Zhang's house, he looked inside before going home. In his dream, he saw himself on a ship in the middle of the sea. A drenched young woman came up to him, grabbed his hand, and begged for help. He asked her what was wrong. The scene immediately shifted to the living room of a house. She said she was in pain and begged for help. He saw blood everywhere smeared on the walls and then woke up. The next day, he told his colleagues he hadn't slept well and had never experienced such a frightening dream. Later, when he returned to the office to pick up something, he saw the photo of the missing woman. It was the very same woman in his dream. How could she be in the photo? He was shocked, and upon asking, he learned that she was the same woman whose house he had visited the night before. Was this mere coincidence? At the trial, the judge asked Kai Shanhui, "Is Zhang still alive?" Kai Shanhui answered, "I don't know." The judge asked again, "Did a murder happen?" Kai Shanhui again answered, "I don't know." But he knew the judge wanted a definite answer. However, as a scientific investigator, he could only state what had evidence. The missing piece of this case ultimately had to be filled in by the judge's conscience. There was no body, and the suspect never confessed. Li Zhengwei was sentenced to life imprisonment in the first trial. He still firmly denied "I didn't kill her." At the appeal trial, he became even more arrogant, accusing the police of framing him. He said that when the police searched the car, they asked him to turn his face away. After they had rummaged through everything, they called him back. So did the police violate procedure? How could they possibly have brought a pile of blood there? His accusation against the police was not convincing. Moreover, the car was brought over by his younger sister. In addition to having her consent, the police also recorded the entire process of searching the car, and a prosecutor was present. During the trial, he not only showed no remorse, but also shouted loudly with a terrible attitude. The life sentence was later changed to the death penalty. However, in the end, the Supreme Court decided to uphold the life sentence for Li Zhengwei, because he had voluntarily returned to Taiwan to cooperate with the investigation. In addition, the court ordered Li Zhengwei to compensate Zhang Jinghua's mother more than 1.3 million new Taiwan dollars, and her family more than 1.2 million NTD, totaling 2.57 million NTD. But the pain in the victims' families' hearts could never be healed with money. Even though Li Zhengwei was convicted, the absence of the victim's body remained an unhealed wound for her family. One haunting question remained unanswered. Was the truth fully revealed? Was justice truly served? Perhaps the answer lies only in the eternal darkness of this case, an eternal mystery buried with time. The story of Zhang Jinghua is a warning about the cruelty of crime, and at the same time a testament to the persistence and resilience of those who pursue justice, no matter how thorny and obscure the path may be. And this story, like 3 other cases, will continue to be told as a reminder of the importance of truth and justice in life. That's the end of today's video. See you in the next one. Goodbye.